Today's debate is sponsored by the Berkshire Democratic Brigades, Berkshire County's grassroots democratic organization supporting progressive issues and candidates. It will be moderated by Brigade's Chair, Michael Wise. And I'd also like to acknowledge Frank Farkas, the Brigade's recording secretary, who's been instrumental in making today's event possible. I don't see, where's Frank? There he is, Frank, and also Tommy Hutto Blake, a member of the Brigade Steering Committee. So thank you both. I'm now going to be turning the floor over to Mr. Wise, who will explain the debate's ground rules and begin the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction and the description of the Berkshire Brigades, which is an organization dedicated to electing Democrats and promoting the platform of the Democratic Party. One element of the platform you saw on the way in, I'll give another plug for that on the way out, and that is a ballot proposition of great importance which we're voting on in November. Right now the issue is the primary. The Berkshire Brigades stays neutral in primary races as a matter of our general policy, and thus the Brigades has not endorsed either candidate in today's debate. We of course will not be neutral in November. Today's event is going to be a novelty, I think, in this era of made-for-television campaigning. What I've tried to set up is a debate between the candidates, not an exchange of elevator pitches, lightning round sound bites prompted by questions from talking heads. I'm not going to play talking head today. My goal is to give the candidates enough time to explain themselves without a lot of interruption. I'll be in the background keeping time with my torture device there that I use for town meetings in Great Barrington. Each candidate will have an opening opportunity to lay out their case for what the district attorney's office should be doing and why they are the right person to do it. Then each will have time to respond to the other's points. I've flipped a coin to determine who goes first. Mr. Shugru will go first, and Ms. Harrington will go last. They'll be alternating all the way through. Opening statements will be about 8 minutes long. First round of responses to each other will be about 5 minutes, and then there will be a final round of responses of about 5 minutes for each. Those are the rules, and Mr. Shugru, yours is the first opening statement.
Thank you, Michael. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming today. I'm running for district attorney because I want to restore confidence and integrity to the district attorney's office. I want law enforcement officers and the general public to have the renewed confidence in the office. I want victims of crime to know the DA will always offer them the support that they need. During this campaign, I've been endorsed by law enforcement groups such as the State Police Association of Massachusetts, the police unions from all over Berkshire County, including North Adams, Pittsfield Police, and Dalton, as well as notable Berkshire County progressives such as Sherwood Guernsey and Judith Knight. These individuals clearly understand that effective prosecution and criminal justice reform are not mutually inconsistent. They go hand in hand. My opponent has done neither. I will do both. I have been trying cases for 36 years. I've tried over 600 cases to a jury, and I've handled every type of case imaginable, including rape, child abuse, drug trafficking, gun crimes, and murder. Even my opponent has stated publicly that I have more experience than she does. The importance of restating my experience is that I'm capable to try any case no matter how complex. If I'm elected, I'll personally try the most serious felonies in the Superior Court. There'll be no need to bring in a special prosecutor from Springfield at taxpayer expense. When I'm a district attorney, we're not going to use outside lawyers. Every Berkshire district attorney before the incumbent was able to both manage the office and try cases in Superior Court. I will do both. I've also will hire a talented and a diverse group of assistant district attorneys to handle all the cases that I do not personally handle. And I'll see to it that they are properly trained and will be accountable for their actions and their performance. I have taught at the National College of District Attorneys Association, and I've lectured in training events for prosecutors across the United States. I know the value of training and how to train prosecutors. I'll never send an unprepared or an untrained prosecutor into the court to represent the people of Berkshire County. I think of myself as a smart progressive, and in my opinion, a smart progressive is someone who advocates for and actually achieves progress. I want to hold people who broke the law accountable for their actions. In my opinion, it's irresponsible to refuse to charge individuals who commit relatively minor crimes such as shoplifting and allow them to repeat their antisocial conduct time and time again with no consequences. Local merchants are outraged by such a policy, as they should be, because they're losing thousands of dollars of merchandise to shoplifters who then embolden to victimize the same merchants over and over again, sometimes several times a day, without the fear of any consequences or penalty. Some argue that prosecuting shoplifters criminalizes poverty and contributes to systematic racism. I disagree. I think the fairer and more comprehensive approach is to charge the shoplifters in court, but then to offer existing statutory diversion programs that currently exist, like the Chapter 276, Section 87 programs. With pre-trial probation, address the reasons why they're shoplifting in the first place when it's appropriate to do so. Also, if it turns out that they have a drug problem, and that's the reason why they're shoplifting, I say we should refer them for treatment to address their addiction rather than kicking the can down the road. If they complete their pretrial probation successfully and make whatever restitution to the merchant they can reasonably make, I would recommend those cases be dismissed, allowing them to walk away with no criminal record and be ready to become a productive member of society. So it's accountability. Accountability is what we need. At the same time, with diversion and not punishing people who have strayed into the criminal justice system. I don't want to send shoplifters and other low-level offenders to jail, but I do want them to learn that criminal behavior has consequences. Which I believe will make them less likely to reoffend. There are some types of crimes which I take a very, very dim view, and I will be very, very serious on these cases. Certainly, rape, child abuse, domestic violence are among them. But I think that illegal possession of a firearm is a crime that must be punished appropriately. There have been too many shootings in our county in the last several months. And in fact, there have been many illegally possessed guns on the street, and is a major factor to these problems. These cases should not be reduced from felonies to misdemeanors and plea bargained away to non-jail sentences. I intend to prosecute these cases vigorously and to seek the appropriate sentences when I think such a sentence is necessary to protect the public. 4 years ago, immediately upon being elected, the district attorney eliminated the community and youth prevention outreach program in our schools. These programs represented an important partnership between the office of district attorney and our schools. Throughout this campaign, I've met with hundreds of parents and teachers, and they're looking for help. They're looking for answers. One of my first tasks as district attorney will be to reinstitute programs that help our youth and support our families and caregivers. After all, this is our next generation that we need to protect. I hope to be your next district attorney. I believe I possess the experience, the vision, and the judgment to succeed in this job. My goal is to make Berkshire County safer for innocent citizens who obey the law and do not deserve to be victims of crime. I want to focus on rebuilding the quality of life in this community, and I can do that with your support. I'm a lifelong proud Democrat. I'm humbled by the overwhelming support I've received thus far. I respectfully ask you to vote in the Democratic primary on September 6th, because I believe confidence, competence, and compassion are what I will bring to the office. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much to the Berkshire Democratic Brigades for hosting this event and to the Mount for allowing us to be in this lovely setting here today. Thanks to everybody for coming and especially to members of the media. My name is Andrea Harrington. I'm very honored to have served as the Berkshire District Attorney for the last 3.5 years. And I'm incredibly proud of the accomplishments of my office during that time. We have been national leaders in the biggest, most important issues in criminal justice of our lifetime. We have been on the front end of how we're going to address the scourge of systemic racism that we see happening in our courts, even in our courts here in progressive Massachusetts. We have data that backs up what anybody who spends any time in the courts here in our county can see with their very own eyes, which is that Black and brown people are overrepresented in the criminal legal system and are punished more harshly than their white counterparts. This was an issue that motivated me to become a defense attorney, to represent people on death row in Florida as a young lawyer. And tackling these issues are what motivated me to run for district attorney. And my office has done incredible work in eliminating the systematic racism that we see occurring in the courts. And we are leading the nation in how we're addressing these issues. My office has prosecuted gender-based violence like never done before here in Berkshire County, and we've had incredible success by partnering with our law enforcement partners and by working with the community to have community-based approaches to gender-based violence. We have educated this county about harm reduction as a real answer, evidence-based answer to the opioid epidemic that has been plaguing our community and has taken too many lives. We have worked to build trust and faith in the criminal legal system by making sure that the community understands the policies that the district attorney's office implements in ensuring that we get fair convictions. We've implemented a Brady list to ensure that the evidence that we're presenting is credible and unbiased. We have implemented open discovery policies. We have done training for our prosecutors to ensure that they understand the rules around disclosure and around jury selection and around the important ethical obligations of prosecutors. And while we've done all of this, we have performed on our cases in a daily basis just with exemplary work. We have a very dedicated team in the district attorney's office that I have built because people are inspired by the vision of the office and people are motivated by a leader that believes in them. I look for leaders in this office. I look for people that bring something special, that are more than just prosecutors, that are more than just staff members in the DA's office. We've been able to attract prosecutors from Attorney General's office, Hampden County DA's office, Suffolk County DA's office, wonderful defense attorneys, people with a whole range of experience that they bring to prosecuting their cases, so that we're not just judging people based on the convictions they get, but we're judging people on doing the work of justice. We have recruited a diverse staff. The diversity in my office is even greater than the diversity here in Berkshire County. Berkshire County is about 86% white. In my office, we are about 74% white, which shows that our efforts at recruiting diverse people into the office are having an impact. We have members in my office who are Berkshire Pride Award winners, members of the Latinas 413 Executive Committee, members of the NAACP leadership, a founder of Black Shares. We have a leader in the statewide victims' rights organizations. So the work that we do is really based on this team, and we've had phenomenal results. During COVID, we lost the ability to do justice because we couldn't have trials. Trials shut down for 18 months, but once they got going, we got to work and we got results. Nobody wants to talk about the fact that we've had an unprecedented level of success in our trials since they resumed after COVID. Guilty, Pittsfield daytime shooting case in July. Guilty, bus driver who sexually assaulted a woman with intellectual disabilities in July. Guilty, domestic abuser who intimidated his victim in July. In June, guilty, domestic abuser who threatened the state police trooper with a crossbow. Guilty, the October Mountain shooter and 2 of his accomplices. Guilty, 3 masterminds of a nationwide fraud scheme targeting seniors. Guilty, a paid caretaker who neglected and abused a senior citizen. Guilty, a motor vehicle homicide conviction for a drunk driver who killed a man in Adams. Guilty, a heroin and cocaine distributor in Adams. Guilty, a child molester who assaulted 2 girls in 2003 and then fled. He was apprehended in August and then convicted. Guilty, a life sentence for the murder in the deadly stabbing on Robbins Avenue. So amidst all of this success, we've also dealt with COVID. And during the early days of COVID, it was terrifying. What was going to happen in our community? What was going to happen in the House of Corrections? Was COVID going to spread there? We were one of the first offices in the state to request that defense attorneys make motions to get people who didn't need to be in jail out of jail. We facilitated with defense release of individuals who were not dangerous. At the same time, I was a strong advocate to make sure that people who were found dangerous belonged and stayed in the House of Correction in order to keep our community safe. We had a case that went to the Supreme Court that I argued to keep those individuals behind bars, people who were incarcerated for serious domestic violence cases, for carrying firearms in our community. This is how our office functions day in and day out. And, you know, during this campaign, we've heard a lot of fear-mongering about what's happening with the crime rates here in Berkshire County. The fact of the matter is, crime rates have been going down in Berkshire County. Lead charges in Central Berkshire District Court have been going down. PPD arrests have been going down. Property crimes have been going down. And yes, like other communities, we see an increase in shootings, which is very concerning. But this community deserves a fair discussion based on facts and evidence of these important issues that we all need to work together to solve. Fear-mongering is not going to help us make our community safer. Finger-pointing is not going to help us better protect people who need to be protected. The work of my office is all about protecting the most vulnerable. That's what we do. And how do we protect the most vulnerable? We build trust with vulnerable communities.
You're 8 minutes already.
Okay.
I'm not going to crack the whip real hard, but
Okay.
can you wrap up quickly?
Thank you. And we build trust with vulnerable communities by ensuring that our law enforcement knows how to respond sensitively to victims of crime, that we are clear that we do not cooperate with ICE, that we implement harm reduction approaches. So I look forward to getting into more of those issues as our discussion progresses.
Present some questions.
Thank you. I've just heard Ms. Harrington say what her successes were. I'm going to tell you what the failures have been. Can you hear that? Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. Let me tell you about the failures of the District Attorney's Office the last 4 years. I'm going to take some examples that were sent to me by both the Pittsfield Police and North Adams Police. Let's talk about Melvin Rios, a gang member. He was on a gun charge at the Chicopee District Court. He was arrested by the North Adams Police on December 16, 2020, possession of a firearm. He was carrying a loaded .44 caliber handgun while in a motor vehicle. He was held on a dangerousness hearing by Ms. Harrington's office and given time served of 90 days instead of the 18-month minimum mandatory sentence or the 3.5-year state prison sentence that this mandated. This case was reduced down, and this person went back on the street. You know what happened on March 22nd this year? Rios was arrested by the Springfield Police Department, discharging 11 rounds at the police when they attempted to perform a traffic stop on him. That's not success. Aaron Chabelle, gang member, arrested for a number of firearms violations stemming from a search warrant of his residence, 10/27/21. These charges include the following: possession of a firearm without a license to carry, possession of a large capacity feeding device, 31 rounds of 9mm magazines loaded with 13 rounds, possession of firearms, the Glock 9mm handgun without a license to carry, possession of a loaded firearm, another Glock 9mm handgun loaded with 10 rounds without a license to carry, improper storage of a large capacity firearm, improper storage of a firearm. He was held on dangerousness by the District Attorney's Office and was given time served for 120 days instead of the 18 months or 3.5-year jail sentence that should have been warranted on this case. He was given 18 months suspended sentence, and the high capacity gun charges were dismissed. Go on. Miguel Perez Argamonte, gang member, arrested trafficking cocaine, 36 to 100 grams. Possession with intent to distribute Class A. Possession of a high capacity firearm. Possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, among other gun charges. Perez Argamonte was given 2 years of probation. He was given a continuation of finding, not even a conviction. This cocaine, the trafficking cocaine charge with 36 to 100 gram, reduced down to possession with intent to distribute Class B. High capacity gun charges were dismissed. That's not success. Matthew Ross, arrested March 31st, 2020. Trafficking cocaine, 18 to 36 grams. Possession with intent to distribute heroin. possession of a high-loaded capacity firearm, possession of a firearm to the commission of a felony, amongst other gun charges. The trafficking charge was reduced to possession and intent to distribute cocaine, and the high-capacity firearm charges were dismissed. That's not success. Talk about Laquan Johnson last year. Laquan Johnson was charged, I have the indictment right here, in the Superior Court. Charged with a felony, illegal possession of a high-capacity firearm. That was under Chapter 269, 10A. That statute was set by the legislature, carries either 18 months house of correction sentence or 3.5 years in the state prison. There's a plea agreement. I have it right here. You're all welcome to see it, by the district attorney's office. For the purpose of the plea, it was amended to illegal possession of a firearm, 10H, a misdemeanor that does not carry a minimum mandatory jail sentence. Now, Ms. Harrington's office did ask for a direct year of 1 year, which would only mean 6 months, despite the 18 months. But again, this was reduced to a misdemeanor. And what do you think the judge is thinking when they see a charge from a felony is reduced to a misdemeanor? He was given 2 years probation. Well, guess what happened on April 1st this year? Mr. Johnson is now charged with gunning down 2 individuals and is charged with murder in the city of Pittsfield on April 1st. That, to me, is not success. But let me tell you about what success is. 28 years I've been defending people. I've represented all sorts of people of different backgrounds. People of color, people of different gender issues, people with all different sexuality, and the bias and the prejudices that I've seen on a day-to-day basis. It's real. I've seen it. We need criminal justice reform. We do. But we need progress with it. So just kicking the can down the road isn't the answer. We need to help people that are in that system, to help them out. At the same time, we need tough prosecution. What's ruining our neighborhoods? What I'm talking about, these are marginalized communities that their neighborhoods are being ruined. That's where these gun charges are. That's what's happening. These are people that need our help. You want to talk about what I'm doing right for the community, what I'm doing right for marginalized individuals, what I'm doing for people of color? Well, why don't we prosecute the crimes that are taking place in their neighborhoods? That's what I say. Let's tackle those crimes. Let's go after them. And at the same time, too, we see people that stray into the system. Let's give them the help they deserve and they need. 28 years I've dealt with people who've had substance abuse disorders. I've helped them get off drugs, get clean, get a job, and then had their case minimized because what they did to earn that dismissal, to earn that consideration by the court. So just saying, okay, I'm just going to dismiss a drug case, that doesn't go anywhere. We must give some teeth to this. We must give some type of substance abuse treatment for these individuals so they don't come back. I know one thing. I've seen it from my clients. Heroin and fentanyl are so addictive. So the people go back to those drugs over and over again. Unless you put them into drug rehabilitation, unless you leave them there, they're not going to do it. 65 overdose deaths in 2021 is too much. One is too many. In 2020, it was 59. So it's increasing. So I think just ignoring the problem that we have addicts out on the street that aren't getting the help they need is a problem. I think that when we're dealing with people that are stealing from merchants, it's a problem. Let's find out what's the root problem. Why are you stealing? And is it a drug problem? Let's help that drug issue out. But in the meantime, crime rate, I don't care if you say the crime rate's gone down. No, the prosecution of crime has gone down. The crime rate has not gone down. You ask anybody who lives in this county. You ask anybody who lives in Pittsfield. Everybody's afraid to go out. You ask the merchants on North Street whether they feel safe with people that are running on North Street, running around, causing them problems. You ask the people there. That's why I'm running for office, because we do not have a safe community right now. That's not fear-mongering, ladies and gentlemen. That's the truth. And that's why we're here, to end this, to end all these problems. At the same time, do what we call, which is really important, aggressive prosecution with restorative justice and by helping people out that need the help they need. They do go hand in hand. Progressive platform and law enforcement go hand in hand. They're needed together. And anybody that's dealing with this will tell you that. They're not mutually exclusive. They go together. That's why I'm asking for your vote.
Well, my opponent has been very consistent in his exaggeration of crime rates throughout his efforts to become district attorney. When he ran in 2004, he relied on the same kind of tactics against David Capeless. and talking about exaggerating the fear and crime rates and what was happening in the streets. And the fact of the matter is that this is not a safe community for everybody, and that we have to address the small number of people in the community that are committing dangerous offenses. And that's the priority of my office every day. We work to protect public safety, and we have been incredibly effective at protecting public safety. And the problem is that whenever you start to make progress on addressing racism, gender-based violence, gender disparities, the discrimination that LGBTQ people face, there's this pushback from the right, and they want to roll back these reforms. And my opponent has been a proponent of these kinds of racist practices for a long time. In 2004, he was pushing broken windows polices a la Rudy Giuliani. He was pushing for reinstating the death penalty. And the beginning of this campaign, his launch was justice should be blind. This is not how we're going to address the overrepresentation of Black and brown people in our criminal legal system. When we read police reports, when we look at cases, we look for racially coded language. We do not allow people in the district attorney's office to use language like gangbangers. We recognize that in order to solve these serious crimes, we need to have trust in the community. The challenge is that there were 13 shootings in 3 months in Pittsfield. We have arrests in 6 of those shootings because people in the community don't want to share information with the police, because they don't trust the police, because of over-policing and over-prosecution for generations has led to mass incarceration. It's broken down the trust in our communities. It's led to intergenerational poverty. When you do this, don't sweat the small stuff, it has a terrible disparate effect on Black and brown people, on immigrants, on people who are vulnerable, who are struggling with substance use disorder, on people that are poor. And I believe that people in Berkshire County deserve treatment for mental health issues, for public health issues in the community, in community-based programs. We should not be relying on courts and on police and on the jails to address public health issues. People belong in the criminal legal system when they pose threats and when they present risks to the community. And that is exactly how we have focused our resources in the district attorney's office. And that's exactly how we have protected public safety. We have to deal with public safety issues based on what's happening now, but we also have to look at the bigger systemic issues. And how do we make sure that we keep young people out of getting involved in criminal activity? So let's talk about that. My opponent wants to bring back a very dated approach to the district attorney's response to building community. You know, when I took office, the trust between the district attorney's office and vulnerable communities was at an all-time low. And we've worked to change that. We hired talented people with lived experience that people in the community could feel safe with, and we've started building that trust, and we've started making those relationships, and we've had success. When there's serious cases where victims are afraid to talk to law enforcement, our victim advocates work with them, and we're able to get information, and we're able to prosecute our cases because we build trust. When you look at our approach to prosecuting low-level crime, Suffolk County did a study. They found that not prosecuting minor offenses was incredibly effective in protecting public safety. People whose low-level offenses were dropped were 58% less likely to come back into the criminal justice system for a 2-year period. So public safety and criminal justice reform do go hand in hand, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Opportunity for a rebuttal.
Thank you. We're not Suffolk County. We're not Boston. We're Berkshire County. I don't want to hear about a study from Boston. I see what's happening in Berkshire County. I'm in the courtroom every single day. Every day. I was in courtroom this morning till 11:30 this morning. I'm there every day. I've been in court every day for 36 years. I'm in the system. I'm in the game. I know what's going on. My opponent keeps saying, well, he's got this broken windows theory. Let's be clear what I said from the beginning. I'm talking about prosecuting low-level offenders and giving them diversion. That's what we said. And when we said there's any similarities between that was about the fact that we're going to make sure that we take those cases and we look at them. And then what we said is different than what happened in New York City is we're giving diversion. We're not giving harsh punishments. We're not giving racial profiling. We're not doing that. That's what was wrong with New York City. That's what was happening in New York. And when that happened, we didn't know it in initial stages. Then we found out what was going on with racial profiling, harassment, excessive punishments. That's not what I'm talking about. I said this at day one, and she can turn around and try to change this every single day, which is not true. I said over and over again, I want to make sure that we deal with the issue of addiction, substance abuse disorders, and that people that come in there that are charged with a crime, we need to help them out so they're not on the street, not getting the help they need. Because I'll tell you again, being in there every single day, I see it. I see that someone who's a drug addict, who's a substance abuse disorder, will not go get help on their own until they hit rock bottom. Well, I've done this in the private practice. I've helped people out and tried to get themselves clean and have done that and made them productive members of society. You talk about that we want to go back the other ways. It wasn't me that asked David Capos to try her murder cases. Ms. Harrington asked David Capos to try her murder cases. I asked that question point blank. He didn't offer it to me, but I asked him point blank. Did she ask you to try murder cases? 2 months ago, he was asked again. You're talking about someone that you ran against and said that was the old boy network, and you're calling me that. That's disingenuous when you've asked him to do that. That to me is not being truthful, not being transparent to the community. But I can tell you what I've done. In the 28 years, I represented a poor black man that was charged with murder. It was on Lincoln Street in Pittsfield. He was being chased by, it was a black-white issue. He was being chased by a series of 3 to 4 white males. They surrounded his car, and they were coming after him. There was some drug involvement, no question. But he pulled his car out, and they were chasing him. They had guns. They were coming after him. And with his left hand, he took his firearm, went out the window, and shot and killed the white man. I can tell you, we were able to present that case in the grand jury and present a self-defense. And that case was no billed, and that case was dismissed. And he never faced a murder indictment because of the work that I did, that we did, that showed the fact that we showed the self-defense that was available. I've been representing people like this all along. I represented an individual who was charged with a crime, which he was innocent of. It was domestic assault. You know what happened during that case? Ms. Harrington decided to have the judge thrown off the case. That's when she asked Judge Tyne to be removed from the bench. That was my client. It was one of my clients, there were 5 of them. But what was more disconcerting than that, than anything else, that she sent a letter to the Regional Administrative Justice and then asked them to remove this judge from the bench and detailed my case without me being present. That's an ethical violation. You can't have ex-party communication without the other party being present. And then when Judge Dolly, who was the Regional Administrative Justice, reviewed that case, he found that Judge Tyne's actions were exemplary and that she's an excellent judge. We all know she's an excellent judge. But that shows the incompetence and the lack of experience. Because my opponent here has gone up and then indicated this judge shouldn't sit on a bench and tried to get her removed because she didn't like the judge's decisions. And every single person that reviewed that case said and agreed this judge was making the right calls and doing the right things. And then I'm not going to go in and try a case and then thank the judge and jury after I lose it as my first trial to say, wow, that was a good experience. Thank you for giving me the chance to try a case. Thank you to the jury. Thank you to the judge for giving me a chance to try a case, even though there was a confession and a gun under the seat and she lost it. Her only one Superior Court case. So I don't want to hear that these are successes and that I'm fear-mongering, because it's not fear-mongering, it's the truth. And I've dealt with people in marginalized communities since the day I opened my practice. And I did it when I was prosecuting crimes for almost 9 years. And I did it as a defense lawyer for the last 28 years, every single day. The people that I've had to take care of in the criminal justice system and help them through that process. And I've been very, very successful at that. So this is another reason why I'm running for district attorney. Thank you.
The kinds of policies that my proponent is advocating to address the problem of opioid addiction, mental health issues, poverty would be absolutely devastating and totally counterproductive for poor people who are struggling with these issues here in our community. My opponent is not appointed by the Committee of Public Counsel Services to take indigent cases. He represents people in divorces, and he represents people who can afford to hire him. He has never had a dangerousness hearing with my office. He doesn't represent people that are being held as a danger, and yet he wants to talk about how my office is mishandling these cases. This idea that my office is not following the law is just completely false, and it's totally has no basis in reality. The reality is that people in this community deserve the best. They deserve prosecution policies that are based on evidence, on science, that are best practices. I have gone to Portugal. I have studied other offices across the nation to bring the best ideas that work here in Berkshire County. I was born and raised in Berkshire County. I'm raising my family here in this community, and it's personal to me that we do better for people here in Berkshire County, and that's what my office has accomplished. This is a really important election, and it's very important that people actually understand the kinds of differences between me and my opponent, because this is going to affect not just the thousands of cases that the district attorney's office handles every day, and thousands of people have been positively impacted by the decisions of my office. We have lowered the number of people that go to the House of Correction. We have lowered the number of people that go to state prison, and we have allowed people to get therapeutic resources in the community. This is huge, and if this is rolled back, this is going to be devastating, not just for those individuals, but it's going to be devastating for the future of Berkshire County. So that's why I ask you to really look at my opponent's record, look at the statements, look at how he has changed his way that he talks about this issue over the course of his career, but also just over the short course of this campaign. I mean, my opponent refused to support criminal policing reform, which was the first piece of legislation that was actually brought and passed by the Black and Latino caucus. It was signed into law by our Republican governor. This is a huge piece of legislation that banned chokeholds. It banned using rubber bullets and chemical spray and canines in crowd control. It created a standard for police officers' accountability, the Post Commission. These are incredibly important innovations and reforms. There should be no question that our district attorney should be supporting police reform, not supporting aggressive prosecution and policing and hedging on police reform. This is not the direction that our community should be moving forward in. I'm very worried for people in our community, Black and brown people, immigrant community, people, LGBTQ people who have been really marginalized historically in Berkshire County by law enforcement. So we have a lot of work to do to make sure that we're protecting people. My office has been incredibly successful in doing those things, and we have a lot of work left to do. And that's why we have built a strong team, and that's why we have taken on the tough cases, and that's why we've taken on these challenges, because we recognize that our work is critical to the future health and safety of Berkshire County.
Ms. Harrington made a couple of statements in that last intervention that you might want to respond to. I'll give you 2 minutes.
Thank you. I know my opponent, he wants to say what my policy is. I have never not endorsed the police reform bill. What I said, let's hear it again, the part of the bill I did not like was facial recognition data. I'm very concerned about facial recognition used by the police. The reason why I'm afraid of that is because 35% of Black females are misrepresented in facial recognition. I don't believe in facial recognition. I believe in the police reform bill. I will train the police, because right now, this district attorney's office is not training the police on a local level. I will make sure they're updated on laws. I'll make sure they take care of it every single time. They know what is happening in the community, so they are trained. I'm also going to make sure that our police are fair and equitable to everybody there, and train on sensitivity and dealing with marginalized with community, I will do that because I can train and teach these people how to do that. The last thing I want to say, I have been someone that has done social justice reform throughout my whole life. I'm the founder of the Berkshire County Children's Advocacy Center, which is a multi-team approach to prosecuting child abuse. Because I saw a need from it in 1991, 93 I incorporated, 95 it opened. Been open for 27 years, helping victims of sexual assault, children and adults, having to go through the criminal justice system. I started that, and that's still operating 27 years later. So what I want to hear, we're going backwards. I'm not asking David Capel to try my case. She is. What I'm doing today, I want to move forward. Progression, progress. Progressive equals progress. Progress means systems and things that happen like the kids' place. I want to get in there, do a mental health court, and do so many other things that I know I can do.
And again, this really will be the last one because I promised you'd have the last word. You've raised something about the DA's office training the police. You might want to respond.
Sure, yes. My office does hold trainings for local law enforcement. We did a 2-day training at Williams College on investigating sexual assault and domestic violence cases. We've offered trainings on civil rights issues. We offer trainings on dangerousness and how to collaborate with prosecutors and ensuring that we have the information we need to hold people pre-trial. We've offered trainings on from a national expert in the social science research on how routine policing can cause trauma responses for Black and brown people. So we have but also I think more importantly is the way that we collaborate with our police officers on a day-to-day basis on our cases. On all our Superior Court cases, we do trial readiness preparation where the officers actually come and we go through the entire trial plan together. And we have very strong communication with our officers day in and day out. The number one conflict that I have with the Pittsfield Police Department is that my prosecutors want to communicate too much with the law enforcement officers because they have to watch their overtime. So we have tremendous training that happens on a day-to-day basis, tremendous collaboration, and we've offered really high-quality training to local law enforcement.
Thank you both for your spirited defense of your positions. Thanks again to the Mount, to Susan Whistler for having invited us, having let us use this facility. It's absolutely perfect facility this afternoon. Thank you to CTSB for recording and making this available for the next week before the primary election, which is a week from today. You can vote early right now, or you can vote next Tuesday, September 6th. Please be sure to vote. And if you have not checked with the Fair Share Amendment people on the way out, I'm sure that they will be happy to tell you all about the very important proposition on the November ballot that will pay for bridges, roads, schools with a modest change in our income taxes. Thank you again for coming out.